The Orlando Police Department and their officers are absolutely professional. And they did exactly what they should have. They stood in the gap between good and evil. They risked their lives to take this 17-year-old suspect in custody before he could shoot anyone else.
What is it like as law enforcement to try to prepare to keep people safe in large events with big crowds? I would imagine that presents a lot of challenges. So how do you kind of go about that and navigate that?
Well, it really depends on the crowd and the geographic area you're in and the wants and desires of the businesses. For example, you can lock down an environment, a Amalie Arena like in Tampa, and make it so difficult to get in that you can keep everything out that could cause a problem. Knives, guns, toothpicks. But would anybody show up with that kind of security? When you have an open air environment like a downtown environment, as we saw in Orlando, it's much, much more difficult. And on top of that, you have to depend upon those folks that run the businesses downtown to say, hey, look, I'm good with one choke point or two choke points. I'm good with magnetometers. And quite frankly, it's frightening to me that we have to get to this point in this nation. But those shootings last night, as horrible as they were, and they were very horrible, that's a symptom of the larger problem. And the larger problem is there's no respect for the rule of law. There's no respect for each other. And we've created an environment where we do what we want when we want. And that's what you saw last night. This 17-year-old clearly violated the law by even having a gun. He was not licensed to have a gun, so we're not talking about whether it's concealed or not concealed or whatever the laws of the state of Florida are. People who want to violate the law don't care how many laws you have on the books. But think about it. I saw news outlets that didn't want to give the 17-year-old's name because they didn't want to hurt the little darling. And he's a mad shooter. So the reality of it is, as a nation, we have got to change the very foundation. And the foundation is we're going to respect each other. We're going to lock people up when they violate the law. And then we're going to have a court system and a judicial system that prosecutes people to the fullest extent of the law. And there are consequences for bad actions. We're going to hold parents responsible for raising their children. And that's not happening either. So we can have kid gloves on these children and have a kid glove society and allow these children to go do what they want when they want, and you'll end up with more shootings like this. Or we can have an accountable society that teaches that people have to be responsible and care for and look out for their fellow man, and you'll have an orderly society. We as a society decide what we want, and what we're getting now is what we've allowed to happen as the United States of America, and given in to people who wanted to commit the law or commit the violation of law and not follow the law.
I will note that we are reporting the suspect's name. He is charged with 2 counts of murder and likely going to be tried as an adult. So we are mentioning his name, but you mentioned the disregard. He walked by multiple police officers before allegedly firing these shots. In that case, I would imagine there's really nothing more that police can do. We saw the large police presence, and even that was not enough to prevent something like this from happening. Is this just one of those cases where sometimes all you can do is react?
The reality is, unless you create an environment where you lock down and you do a magnetometer check and a scan check at the front, in order to have a safe environment, you're going to have the ability for someone to hurt you. And then even if you do that, they can hurt people at the backup line outside of the magnetometer. So we can't stop someone who wants to hurt someone because our job is to react. Now, we can do preventative measures to lower the probabilities.